Today, we are talking about a book that was so far ahead of its time, so scandalous that when it came out in 1899, it basically destroyed its author's career. I'm talking about Kate Chopin's absolute masterpiece, The Awakening.
I mean, just think about that for a second. That's the question that sits right at the very heart of this novel. It's what pushes our protagonist, Edna Pontellier, to basically burn down every single expectation society has for her, all in the search for a life that feels like it's actually hers.
All right, so let's get into it. To really get why Edna does what she does, you first have to understand the world she was so desperate to escape. We're talking about the super rigid, high society Creole world of late 19th century New Orleans. And listen, on the surface, she had it all. Absolutely all of it.
And this really gets to the core conflict. You see, the ideal woman back then was what they called a mother woman. Her entire identity was just completely wrapped up in her husband and kids. That was it. That was the goal. But Edna, she just doesn't fit that mold at all. She feels this huge disconnect from that role, this restlessness that she can't even put a name to yet.
So let's just lay out the pieces of her so-called gilded cage. She's got a rich, respected husband, check. 2 young sons, check. A great reputation in New Orleans society, all the material comforts you could ever want. It's the kind of life people would have killed for. But for Edna, every single one of those things feels less like a gift and more like a bar on a cage, just fueling this deep, quiet unhappiness. And then, everything changes. It all happens during a summer vacation at a beach resort called Grand Isle. This is the spot where that quiet dissatisfaction starts to morph into a real, conscious desire for something more. This is where her awakening truly begins.
So it's kind of like a perfect storm of 3 key things that summer. First, she gets incredibly close with a young man named Robert LeBrun, and she feels an emotional connection that's just completely missing from her marriage. Second, she starts painting again, but this time it's not just a little hobby. She starts to see it as a piece of her soul. And third, and this one is so important, she finally learns to swim. It's this incredible moment where she feels for the very first time completely in control of her own body, her own destiny.
And this quote just perfectly captures the power of the sea in this book. It's not just water, right? It's everything. It's freedom. It's sensuality. It's this huge, untamable force that's mirroring everything that's bubbling up inside Edna. The sea is literally calling to her, whispering about a life beyond the safe, predictable shore. So what happens when she takes this new energy back home? Well, the Edna who returns to New Orleans is not the same woman who left. That little spark from Grand Isle, it's a full-on bonfire now, and she starts, piece by piece, to tear down the life she's supposed to be living.
And her rebellion isn't just one big dramatic act. It's this slow, steady escalation. She starts by blowing off her social duties, which was a huge deal for a woman of her class. Then she prioritizes her art over everything. And then, in a move that was just unthinkable at the time, she actually moves out of her family home and gets her own place. And finally, she crosses the biggest line of all and takes a lover, claiming not just her own mind, but her own body, too. But here's the thing. The Awakening isn't some simple, happy story about breaking free. Chopin gets into the really messy, often heartbreaking consequences of what Edna does. As she's about to find out, freedom has a very, very steep price.
Yeah, her whole dream just starts to crumble. Robert, the guy who kickstarted this whole thing, he comes back, but he's horrified by the independent woman she's become. He's still stuck in the old ways. Her friends don't get it. She feels more and more distant from her own kids. That romantic idea of a free life just shatters against the cold, hard wall of reality.
And this is maybe the most tragic discovery in the whole book. Edna gets her independence. She's living on her own, she's making her own money, but she doesn't actually find the freedom she was looking for. You know, she broke out of her cage only to find that there was no place in the world for a woman like her. Independence without community is just isolation.
So all of this brings us to the novel's final, unforgettable, and deeply controversial ending. She's lost, she's disillusioned, there's no going back, but there's no clear path forward either. And she feels this pull, this need to return to the place where it all began.
She goes back to Grand Isle. She stands on the beach, takes off all her clothes, and just walks into the ocean. She swims out and out and out until she just can't swim anymore. The story ends right there, with the sea, that first symbol of her awakening, finally embracing her for good. And that is the question, isn't it? The one that people have been arguing about for more than 100 years. Was this a tragedy? A final surrender to a world that had no place for her? Or was it the ultimate act of liberation, the only way she could truly be free, on her own terms? The book, brilliant as it is, gives you no easy answer.
Back in 1899, though, society had a very clear answer. The book was destroyed by critics. They called it poison. Kate Chopin's incredible career was basically over. But, decades later, the world finally caught up. The novel was rediscovered, and now it's seen for what it is, a brave, groundbreaking work of early feminist literature. It's a timeless story about the search for your true self and a powerful warning about the cost of being born before your time.